Hello, and welcome to episode 16 of Launch Strategies for Leaders, the show where I come to you most weeks and give you some tips and insights on really how to launch a significant venture successfully. So, I was not with you last week, but we're back this week, and I'm going to share a few tips on go to market strategy. Now, go to market strategy is probably one of the most significant areas when it comes to launching a significant venture. When it comes to actually business success, really having a go-to-market strategy that actually attracts the right audience, that actually attracts interest in your business is one of the most important components. So this week, today, and also Thursday, I'm going to share 6 key components that every go-to-market strategy needs to have. If you're watching this live, do go ahead and let me know where you're tuning in from in the comments. If you've watched before, if you have any questions on this topic or on launching in general, please do not hesitate to pop your comments in the chat, and I will be sure to answer all of those questions at the end of this broadcast. So in this episode, I'm going to give you the first 3 tips, and on Thursday, I'm going to give you the final 3 tips on the components that you really need to have in your go-to-market strategy. But before we get into that, let me just explain what a go-to-market strategy is. Now, essentially, it is simply an action plan of how you're going to target your ideal clients and how you're going to gain competitive advantage in the marketplace. So essentially an action plan of how you're going to attract your ideal clients and how you're going to stand out amongst the competition in the marketplace. So that's all we mean by go to market strategy, because I know sometimes, in business, corporate spaces, we bandy around so many of these terms, so many acronyms, and we assume everybody knows what they mean, but actually everyone has a slightly different definition. So that's what we mean by go to market strategy. So I'm going to give you the first 3 tips. And within each of these tips, I'm going to give you some sub points. And if you know me, if you're familiar with my lives, if you're familiar with my style, I really like to keep things super simple. So the first thing you need to be thinking about when you're looking at your go-to-market strategy, whether you're wanting to have a go-to-market strategy in your business plan for investment, or you're launching a new business, or you're kind of reevaluating your business, you're going into a new market and you want to kind of have a solid strategy, the first thing you need to have is you need to ask yourself is where you'll be positioning yourself in the marketplace. So where will you be positioning your organization, your business in the marketplace? Now, the first point here, now in this section, I've got 3 P's for you. You know I love P's, the 6P launch framework, everything that our business is built on. So I've got 3 P's for you in terms of where you're positioning your organization in the marketplace. Now, the first one is product market fit. And if you want more on this, I've done a whole live on product market fit. I think I did a series over a week on product market fit, and it's also one of our signature workshops. So go and check out our YouTube channel if you want more of this. But just to summarize, product market fit is the first thing, as that's really identifying, where is the best place for your product in the marketplace. So this is where your unique offering and a unique marketing, so where market opportunity and product meet. Yeah, so market opportunity on this side, and your product meet, and it's a sweet spot. So that's product market fit. Again, one of the most important decisions you will make, where you fit in the marketplace. And a lot of times businesses fail because this is wrong out the gate. They have no product market fit, because just because you have identified a need doesn't necessarily mean that people care about that need enough to spend money on it and enough to spend what you want them to spend. So product market fit is super, super important. So that's the first thing. When you're thinking about where you need to position your organization in the marketplace, the first thing is product market fit. The next thing is, and this is in no particular order, is pricing, because pricing is not just about revenue and income, it's about perception. It's a huge part of your brand. And so in terms of pricing, where do you want to sit in the marketplace? Do you want to have a very democratic offering. So a nicer way to say cheap, because people always think cheap is bad. Cheap is not bad. If you want your brand to be accessible, if you want it to be accessible to as many people as possible, if you're going after a critical mass, if you want to grow at speed, low pricing is not bad, but it has to be a strategic decision. No price point is bad intrinsically, but it has to be based on your strategy and where you want to go. So do you want to be positioned at the lower end of the market? Do you want to be mid-tier? So kind of not too high price, but not the lowest of the low. Or do you want to be high end? And none of these decisions are wrong. There's no, I hear a lot about, don't underprice yourself, price your offerings higher, which is great, nothing wrong with that. But equally, if you've made a strategic, there are reasons to price your offerings low. And it doesn't always mean, yes, depending on how you do it, it could be, people perceive it as cheap and low quality, but not necessarily. If we look at platforms like Canva, only £10.99 a month, really affordable, and it's quite a high level, high quality service offering. So it's all about positioning, and as long as your decisions are strategic and based on the long-term vision of your organization, there is no real hard right and wrong. There's no hard and fast rules, but make sure that whatever decisions you make in these areas are aligned to the goals and vision of your organization and what it is that you're launching. So first, product market fit. Second, pricing. The third thing you need to think about when you're thinking about where to position your organization in the marketplace is the people that you want to target. So who are your ideal clients? Now, a few words of advice on ideal client. Now, when you are launching something initially, unless you have a track record in an industry, your ideal client is going to be a hypothesis. That's the first thing. So you're not really going to know until you get in the market, until you've done extensive research, until you've experienced the marketplace. You're not really going to understand who your ideal client is. It's taken me a number of years to almost uncover. Your ideal clients will almost reveal themselves to you over time. So when you're getting out the gate, it's just a hypothesis. The second thing about ideal client is a lot of people assume that if you have an ideal client, then you're alienating the rest of the market. Not true. If you try and serve everyone, you will serve no one. And I know that I'm sure you've probably heard this a million times, but when you're doing this, it's so tempting not to hem yourself in. But it's such an important decision to really decide where you're focusing on in the marketplace for a couple of reasons. One, resources. When you're starting out, resources are tight, so you want to be targeted. And two, you want to be able to have a high impact in a narrow market and then begin to expand over time. The other thing that I want to say about is even just because you target one type of client doesn't mean others will not come to you. I recently took on a client who, on the surface of it, they actually wouldn't look like my ideal client, and yet it was a perfect fit, so and that client wasn't deterred by the fact that I niche in a certain area. When we spoke, it really resonated, and it's a great partnership. But the point is, just because you're targeting a particular client doesn't mean that you are alienating others. So that's what I want to say about that. So for those of you that may be chiming in at this point, just to recap, today we're talking about 6 core elements of go-to-market strategy. I'm giving you the first 3 today, which are subdivided. And the first point is ask yourself where you'll position yourself in the market. And those were the first 3 points. Next, I've got 3 C's for you. So where will you find your leads? Really, really important to consider this. Now, when a lot of people teach about ideal client, they ask you to identify, what is their age, what is their income, where do they live, and all of those things. Let me tell you, if you can pinpoint your ideal client to a T, however, if you cannot locate where you can find those ideal clients, it's a wasted exercise. So you have if you want to have a successful business, the market has to almost already exist. Unless you have a lot of money to kind of develop the market yourself, fine. But in most cases, you want to be able to pinpoint where that market exists. So for example, if you have accountants, that it's going to be an accounting community, or you can find groups on LinkedIn, or you can find professional bodies. But the mistake I see so many people make is the ideal client is so narrow that you have to develop and build that audience yourself. And which in some ways you're creating a rod for your back. To give yourself the best chance of success, if you don't have massive, copious amounts of money, you want to be choosing an ideal client that exists. You want to be choosing an ideal client that you can pinpoint and find in a community. So that is the first thing where you'll find these people. So point number one. So as well as identifying your ideal client, you have to be able to pinpoint the community they can be found in. So where can you find these leads? Because a lot of times the reason our go-to-market strategies fail is because you don't know where to find them. Like, you're literally racking your brain. I've got these ideal clients in my head, but where on earth am I going to find these people? So you have to be able to pinpoint a community where your ideal client can be found. Point number one. Point number two, and I've got 3 C's for you here, the channels. So what are the channels? Again, associated. Where are your ideal clients? Are they going to be on social media? Are they going to be on Pinterest? Are they going to be in do they have their own kind of platforms? I know within the care community, for example, there's their own digital communities that they have. What social media channels, where can they be found? What type of events do they frequent? So think about not only where are the communities that they can be found in, so that you can attach yourselves to those communities, but what are the best channels? A lot of people will ask, okay, what is the best social media channel to be on? The question's wrong. And you may or may not have heard the saying that the quality of your learning is dependent by the quality of your questions. And the question itself is poor, even though it's answered a lot, because it's not a matter of where is the best social media channel. It's where is the best social media channel for your target audience, or for what you want to achieve. Though that's the question that you need to ask, because any social media channel can be great depending on who your target audience is, depending on what it is that you want to achieve. And so there's no hard and fast rule in terms of the best. It's dependent on so many things. But think about, okay, where are your people? And that is the channel that you need to be on. Not necessarily the channel that you love the most, but the channel where you're going to find most of your ideal clients, okay? And the next place is look at your connections. So what are the connections that you can make the most of, whether that be people, whether that be organizations? What connections do you have? So just to recap, that point number two is where in your go-to-market strategy, you need to be clear on where you will find your leads. And so that's looking at channels, that's looking at communities, and that's looking at your connections. Third and final point for today is how you'll attract these leads. So it's one thing to be positioning yourself. So you've positioned yourself, you've identified where you're going to find these, but there's quite another it's quite a different story to be able to attract these leads. Because how many times have, I guess an example for you, you could be in a room, but just because you're in the room doesn't mean people are going to be drawn to you, doesn't mean that you're going to have quality conversations. So not only do you need to find yourselves in those rooms, you need to position yourself so that you are attracting the leads that you want to attract. So how do we do that? So again, we have 3 C's again. And so those are content. Our favorite, this liar, is content, and content can be anything. It's just, content can be anything, can be content. And so it's content. So you're attracting them through content. But the key with content is to make it relevant. And always go to market strategy, marketing in general, before you ever share anything, before you ever communicate anything, before you ever write a document, always be asking yourself, what is the purpose of this? What is the goal? And how is this aligned to my overarching objectives? Because if you can't find a thread between what you're doing and the goals you have, you should not be doing it. And it really is that simple. It's not about content for content's sake. It's not about showing up on video because video is trending. If it is not aligned to your business goals, you have to be focused like flint on where it is that you're going. And if your marketing activity, your go-to-market strategy isn't aligned to that, please save yourself the trouble and don't do it. Because what happens when you do that is you things like, you know, you're running ads and they're not helping you, or you're showing up every week and it's not helping you, and it's frustrating and it's a waste of time and it's a waste of resource. So before you take any advice, before you post anything, always be asking yourself, how is this ultimately going to help me achieve my goals? And that doesn't necessarily mean that everything that you talk about has to be pure business, has to be technical stuff, has to be corporate stuff, you know, but there has to be a clear alignment. You know, if you are showing up and you're talking about a topic that is more casual, let that be aligned to a purpose, like maybe, you know, just connecting to your audience, or, you know, building rapport. But there has to be some purpose to your posting, some purpose to the activity that you're doing. And that is so, so important. It's not about having followers for the sake of followers. It's not about, you know, having lots of conversations for the sake of conversations, because our time is precious. And so it's important that you're spending that in the right places. And that's what a go-to-market strategy is ultimately about. So you have content and it's conversations, and this is really important, because sometimes we, you know, there is a tendency, not a tendency, that's a really broad generalization, it's quite inaccurate, but sometimes we can have, you know, just one way. Marketing can be just very one way. Like, you know, how many times have we had instances where it feels like a brand is talking at us rather than with us? And I think it's really important to have conversations, to have dialogue, to share, and have people provide opportunities for people to feedback, to create this feedback loop of continuous learning. And that happens in conversation. And so as you're communicating, as you're sharing, you're also gaining insights from your community, which is going to help you attract them, because, you know, you start speaking their language, you start feeling like you're one of them, you start understanding the culture, and that comes from dialogue, and that comes with conversation, and it's a two-way conversation. And so the third thing is collaborations. And I'm going to keep repeating this. I first mentioned the 3 C's last year when I said the companies that are going to thrive post COVID, the companies that are going to be most successful are going to embody these 3 C's: collaboration, creative thinking, and creative thinking. And there was one more that I cannot remember right now. But collaboration was, collective brain power. Collaboration, creative thinking, and collective brain power. And that still stands. And so collaboration is so rich. And I think in the times that we're moving into, no one has a monopoly on good ideas. And that's really important to remember. It doesn't matter how good you are, what you do. It doesn't matter how experienced you are. No one has a monopoly on good ideas. And sometimes it's that fresh thinking from people that aren't in your industry, that maybe not even have your experience, but it's the coming together of strong minds. And that happens in collaboration. And again, that's a great way to really attract leads. So those are my first 3 points. There's a lot in there. So, you know, if you missed any of this, do go ahead and catch the replay. And I'm actually gonna, for those of you that don't know, I have a podcast called Launch Strategist. I think we have maybe about 50 episodes on there. Each episode is about maybe 10, 15, longest, maybe 20 minutes. And so I am going to I'm going to do an episode specifically on this with all 6 points. And I'm going to put that on the podcast as well. But if you missed any of these episodes, you can go ahead and re-listen to them at our YouTube channel. So that is the launchstrategist.com. No, the Launch Strategist. So go to the YouTube and just simply search the Launch Strategist. But yeah, it's a really important topic. If you really want support in this area in terms of developing a go-to-market strategy, we do offer a full-day workshop on go-to-market strategy. So you can pop over to the launchstrategist.com, go to webinars, go to workshops, and you will see that workshop there. And one of our 6B consultancy clients, we're actually building out their go-to-market strategy for them. At the moment, it's an area that we're very experienced in. So at the very least, go and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you want to catch the replays of these episodes, go and do that. I'm also going to do a whole episode on this topic on the podcast. And finally, if you know, after you've listened to that free content, if you want more support, we offer a workshop and a higher level to that as part of our 6P consultancy service. We also develop go-to-market strategy for organizations as well. So I hope you found that useful. If you have any questions, pop them in the comments below. And I can't believe I've been speaking to you for a whole 20 minutes. It didn't feel that long. But if you have any questions, then do pop them in the comments. Even if you're watching the replay, please go ahead and pop those in the comment box below. I always come back to these lives and I will always get back to you with your comments. Any questions that you have around launching, please do not hesitate to pop them in the comment box and I will be sure to provide you a response. Now, so that's it from me today. For those of you that are watching live, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate your presence. For those of you that are catching the replay or will catch the replay, thank you for watching. And I'll be back with you on Thursday as well. So speak to you soon. Bye-bye.